Thank you. I think it's a very good question. I believe the surveyor has answered um, quite quite well in terms of the fact that Lagos has its peculiarities in terms of the type of soil, etc. But I will also remind you that Lagos is where everything is happening. Trading uh, is 10 times where what it is in other places. Population is 15 times what it is in other places. Commerce, everything. So the number of buildings being put up in Lagos is mind-boggling. You will not believe that between the time you went to bed last night and this morning, maybe a dozen unscrupulous people have started putting up structures in the dead of the night so that they will be undetected by the authority. So Lagos definitely has its peculiarities, but I want to just go back, if you don't mind, to the issue on materials, because I think it's a very, very important point. Let us go back in mind a little bit to what was happening in the pharmaceutical industry, where before Dora Akuli of blessed memory had to try and sanitize the industry because there was so much fake prescription medication around. People would be taking what they thought were medication, but they're just basically chalk, powder, etc. And the reality of it is that is very much the same thing in our industry here. So they're always right in saying quality control and supervision. But why are these things even in the market in the first place? Because the unsuspecting members of the public are now confused. Which is correct? Which is wrong? Why should we be having poor materials? Why aren't we prosecuting people and making, an example of them and saying you are selling fake products, and the direct implication of what you're doing is people are dying. This is not a game. This is not just, sorry, it's true. This one, if you buy China, is 6 months to last. If you buy Taiwan, it will be 3 months. These are people's lives. This is a tragedy in our nation at this time. So we shouldn't even have these poor materials in circulation. But of course, there will always be bad boys amongst them. And therefore, back to what the surveyor said, we also need the structural engineers and other professionals to be on site to do the QA/QC, the quality control and supervision. So it's like a two direct things. One, you don't want to have bad materials, but when some slip by, you need to have safeguards by the professionals to pick it up.
Okay, well, I'd also love to ask you, and this has to do with the mammoth number of people that get involved in a building project. You see people come around and say, I can do this, I can do that. And it doesn't necessarily mean they have the experience and the wherewithal or the knowledge to carry out and prosecute such a project. Where does ensuring that the right fit in terms of personnel are those that are engaged in having to build to construct a building? I mean, the bricklayers, they are also very, very pivotal. Those who would have to mix the sand, the cement, and there's different materials that have to be used. And of course, it's not unusual for you to see inscriptions along sometimes walls, factory worker needed, a site construction worker needed, and people would apply who might not necessarily have the experience to prosecute such projects. How does quality control also come in that regard?
Yes, that's a brilliant question. And whilst I mean also a moving target, because at all times, even as I'm talking myself, I would dare say humbly that I'm qualified and competent in some things, but if you put me in the operating theater to start to do some neurosurgery or something, I would totally fall flat, and people should run far away from me. So I think the issue is about making sure the right people are doing the right thing. They are put in the right places. The bricklayers and the artisans, they have their role. They are very, very much valued in the industry. But they should not be the ones doing the design of the building. The carpenters are very well valued. They shouldn't, however, be determining whether the number of iron rods to be put in should be increased or reduced. So it's all about actually making sure that you use the right people for the right thing, and making sure that you are not taking anything for granted. And unfortunately, I will give another little example. I remember when in those days we used to have car radios that we put into a Tokumbo car that we bought, and you go to Alaba or one of these markets, and as they are fitting the radio for you, you see these little boys also putting hand, and you find that they are learning, and they're learning on the job, and that is very good. But they have to be regulated so that they've gone through the full training. So it's actually something that has to be done. We need more vocational centers to train people, not just to know what to do, but to also know when something is different. And then they say, this one passed me, please go call engineer, or go call the architect, go call the surveyor. That, look, I discovered this, and you remember before you left me on the site, you told me this is what I should do, but I can see different. That comes from training. So there's a lot more. It's not just about picking up a shovel and saying I'm now a bricklayer, but there must be some vocational training. Government needs to put its act in order in regards to that, but also the private sector. We're all in it together, and we all have to make it work. Because at the end of the day, we don't want the Nigerian public start not being able to sleep in their homes, not sure whether this will be their last night, whether things are going to cave in on them, etc. So there's a lot to be done. It's not now about just the rhetorics. We really need to, make sure that at all times a lot of this menace is stamped out once and for all.
All right, you're listening to Panorama on Splash 106.7 FM, the Integrity Station. Well, we're able to catch up with the owner of the building that's caved in and collapsed on Gerrard Road in Ikoyi, Lagos, as well as the architect who was also pivotal to the erecting of that structure. We'll listen to what they had to say, and we'll also get back to more questions. Stay with us in the studio, Surveyor ABIODUN LIADI, as well as Engineer Kunle Adebajo. Stay with us.
Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama. Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama on Splash 106.7 FM.
If something has not been done before, people will say it is impossible. But once it is done, I can tell you now, once we started with this one now, I can tell you there are lots of my friends now who want to do high-rise. I can tell you about 3 or 4 of my friends now who have never done, they've never done 5-story before. To do 10-story now, they will tell me, 10-story, this one wants to do 8-story, this one wants to do, but before, they dare not dare try it. So it is somebody that's going to set this pace, which we've come to do.
The country is in a mess. We're in a rut. Because if we've done what we're supposed to do, either on the private or the government side, we won't be having this kind of incidents. Like it's said by Falano, the renowned lawyer, about 6 or 7 weeks precisely, where we have all the allied professionals in the construction industry together. He said we should stop talking of building collapse. Go and search yourself. What is your regulatory body doing? Your regulatory body is supposed to regulate things like this, but we are fighting among ourselves. So ACON, who is my own regulatory body, my prayer to you is wake up and do the needful.
All right. The first voice you heard was that of the building. He, in essence, was also trying to give, I don't want to say justify, but the fact that he put up a 21-story building, which was groundbreaking to him. And of course, you heard the voice of the architect next, who, more on a sobering note of sorts, talked about how they should look inwards and also do some sort of reflection.
Yeah, he also mentioned, I think he mentioned something about what the agency responsible was doing. Now, I'm going to throw this to you, Abiodun. Lagos State Building Control Agency, LASBCA. They're responsible for enforcement of building control regulations, regulate and inspect all building works and certify various stages of building constructions and keep record of same, issuance of certificate of completion and fitness for habitation. I've lived in Lagos for majority of my life. I've seen constructions from scratch to ground up without one member of an agency even breezing by. And this is supposed to be something that is, periodic. I think as the foundation has been laid, they come, they check it out. As the structure is being raised, they come, they check it out. Is it supporting? Is it in line with what you have presented in the first place that you want to erect? I can honestly say that I have seen buildings go from ground zero to up without any intervention of any government agency. How do we explain this?
Yes, it's part of exactly what we are talking about. Because when you are doing a construction, definitely there is an agency that gives the approval. The agency that gives the approval or some other agency is expected to monitor what they have given approval on. But when a construction like this starts right from the onset, from the foundation, and there is no government body or agency to come to check and look at what is going on, the tendency is that those who are working there, they will just be doing exactly what they like. And most of the time, the professional himself, who is the engineer, he will not be at the site 24/7. So the mason, the carpenters, and the rest of them will be mixing and doing whatever they are doing. But if they know that at any point in time, the structural engineer, the other engineers, the government agency can breeze in and check on what they are doing, then definitely it will take caution. So the lack of consistent check-up on the construction building is a problem, actually, to what we are talking about. And you could see, when we're talking of a building collapse itself, it needs monitoring, even from the issue of from the soil, from the foundation, to whatever height you are taking it to. You need to check the verticality of the columns. You don't just put the thing together and begin to raise it up. You have to make sure is the column perfectly vertical, and the horizontality of the beam, is the beam perfectly horizontal. And the surveyor will be at the side checking with his instrument from stage to stage, from level to level, to make sure.
To give an example, someone mentioned yesterday when I was talking about this that I should actually ask this, that she heard that back in the day as quality control measures, a surveyor would come with a really large sledgehammer and hit, all the floors of the... Is that true? Did that really happen, or is that just rumors?
I don't really know about that. But what I know is that all the professionals ought to be at the site, and they should be doing exactly what they are expected to do. If that takes place, and then the government agency also come in to make sure that there is check and balances, all these issues, they will hardly arise.
All right, 15 minutes to 9, we have to pay attention to the calls that you put through to us now. Any question or any comment you have as regards the issue of the day, which is recent cases of building collapses, and we're asking if enough due diligence is being carried out. Numbers to call for you to be part of the conversation. They are 0817 444 1067, 0704 400 1067, and 0817 555 1067. Please keep your thoughts out to a minute so we can have as many as possible. Good morning.
Yes, Tajuddin.
Good morning, Tajuddin. Speak to us, please.
Good morning. Yes, my question is just, I know that there are civil engineers, I think, in two categories, and those who construct building and those who construct roads. But now my question is, what's the difference between a civil engineer and a builder? Because you discover that some people are called builders. So what is that difference between these two? Thank you.
All right, no problem. One of our guests will answer the question. 0704 400 1067 and 0817 444 1067. Hello, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Olabode Adegun is my name.
All right, Olabode, please keep your thoughts down to a minute.
Okay. First and foremost, my condolences and commiserations to communities and families of the affected casualties of this unfortunate incident. And having said that, my new worry right now is actually now less of the tragedy, because unfortunately it has happened and we can't reverse that. Hello?
All right, go on. We can hear you.
So my biggest aspect, is how post-incident relations, won't be our same Nigerian usual style of sobbing and whining for some days, several hours. And at the end of the day, everything eventually dies down. It gets forgotten and we move. Without it, triggering us to a decisive change of ways. Things like this, if it happens, don't forget about the synagogue incident. We haven't had anything meaningful about it now. And if you recall, even in Lagos alone, this would be like about more than 3 or 4 times now that high-profile buildings like this has actually collapsed. So what has happened, what has been the outcome? Who have gone into, actually getting me deep, to know what exactly is the root cause? And what makes this one more worrisome is the fact that it's a building that is still under construction. There should be a kind of someone that even look deep into it, so to actually investigate what actually we may be the topic to be wrong. So we should be looking at it in another. There might have been. It might have not.
Olabode, please keep your thoughts down to 10 seconds. Thank you.
Okay, I'm wrapping up now. It might have not been as a result of substandard or inferior materials. You should look into this. Heads must roll, and it should go beyond that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Olabode, for speaking to us and for contributing to the show. 0704 400 1067 0817 444 1067. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah,
all right, speak to us, please.
Is the role of the government in this issue of building collapse and the stuff like that? I have an experience. I work at a company somewhere in Nigeria. I don't want to mention names. And government officially comes to that place to inspect their products. Whenever they are coming, they will come in, and they will just take them to the office, entertain them, and give them their brown envelope, and they will go back. And there was a time their boss was about to come, and those who used to come, they couldn't handle it. So they have to inform the company that their boss are coming from probably Abuja or somewhere. They have to drive their house outside the compound. They're going to park it somewhere outside the compound. When those people came, they inspected those things, and they think it is okay, and they went away. What I'm saying is that the government officials themselves, they know that some things are not in quality product, the iron rod especially, and they absorb them, they cover them up, and they are not showing them how to correct them. And that is one of those reasons why this thing is happening. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much for speaking to us. We have a few comments I think we should take right now. A question from Akorede Camila Debayo. A question for the guests. Over 70% of Nigerians who embark on building projects prefer quacks to certified professionals in building construction because they believe that quacks are cheaper compared to professionals. What is your take on this? Let's begin with you, Abiodun.
Or the other ones?
On this question.
The first question, talking about difference between civil engineer and the builder. Civil engineering is a very broad field. In actual fact, even surveying itself was part of civil engineering before. But you could see the need to begin to separate some professional fields from civil engineering. That's why surveying came out from civil engineering. building aspect come from, because civil engineer himself is a big umbrella.
Yeah.
He handles the bridges, handles the road, handles the building, and so many other things. So in order to be able to have a kind of a profession that focus on building alone, we have the builders taking that particular aspect. On the issue of the root causes of an incessant collapse, we have mentioned it. Materials is there, the right professionals there, and so many other things. And then the owners of such structures should not cut corner. They should be ready to pay, especially when you're talking of a high-rise building. You need to make sure that you do the due diligence, give the money, employ the right professionals to be able to handle this thing. And then those who are supposed to do the monitoring from the government side also make sure that they do what they're expected to do. There's another body that needs also to be raised up to look into the issue of monitoring, which is not happening yet. All the high-rises in the nation, in the country, needs to be monitored from time to time, whether it is sinking, it is deviating, whatever. There should be a body that is monitoring all such big structures, and that one is not in place yet.
All right, let's have a few more words, some parting words from Engineer Adebajo. Hello?
Okay, thank you. I think, hello. I think the response given by my brother there is absolutely correct. With regards to the issue of builders are just a specialist part. It's a specialist part of civil engineering, which is very broad. And you also have specialist parts like structural engineering. You have specialist parts like geotechnical, etc. So it's all about putting the right people. And if you go for a medical checkup, a doctor who is a general practitioner will sometimes tell you, I'm going to refer you to a specialist, because they will specialize in certain areas. The other question, I think, which came from your I hope I remember it now, from your callers.
Yes.
Please just remind me again.
About Nigerians preferring to use the services of quacks compared to professionals.
Lovely. Thank you for that. Yes, indeed. The reality of it is, everybody is struggling at the moment. The cost of construction is extremely high. Everybody is trying to find ways of reducing their costs. But what the public needs to know is that there are some things which will make it seem like you are saving, but you are actually losing a lot. And one area you must not compromise on is getting the right professionals, because at the end of the day, you may think you are saving on a few 100 naira of fees, but then your property of 20 million is all in ruins. And not only that, I hope everybody knows that once there's a collapse, the entire site is forfeited. You lose everything. You lose what you spent, you lose your land, and of course, if you are found to be culpable, you also may lose your freedom and end up in prison for years and years to come. So I ask that question: is that now worth the few small amount of fees that you can save or potentially save and lose all that? So I think it's absolutely correct that most people are looking for ways. And I think one of the things we should just, if you don't mind, agree also within ourselves that it's all well and good saying do this, don't do this, don't cut corners. But people are struggling. They are, even going back to the food analogy, there will be a time when the man in the house will say to the wife, look, do you need to add so much, stew to the, so much meat to this stew? Do you need to add so much tomatoes?
Engineer Adebajo, we're going to need you to wrap up really quickly, please.
Sure.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, it is about trying to get effective, efficient construction costs. And the professionals are actually the best people to do that, because they will save you a lot in efficient design.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your contributions to the show. We have to wrap up now. This segment, at least, we have to go on commercials break. But let us thank Surveyor ABIODUN LIADI for being a part of the show, as well as Engineer Kunle Adebajo for giving us their insights in their various fields, their various professions. Thank you so much for being here with us on the show.
It's our pleasure. Thank you very much, too.
All right, we'll break, and of course, when we come back, we'll get continue with this. Stay with us.
Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama. Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama on Splash 106.7 FM.
A wonderful morning starts with integrity. The integrity starts with you.
Splash FM 106.7.
lẹ́nìkan bá ń bi mí ohun tí mo máa ṣe tí bá jowó tó tówó gidi mo ronú mílíọ̀nù kan náírà àbí ìyẹn ò tó nǹkan kan rárá bóyá pẹ̀lú bíi 5 tàbí 10 mo lè.
mú àlárẹ̀rẹ̀ rẹ ṣẹ pẹ̀lú ìpolongo Airtel Recharge and Blow níbi tí gbogbo èèyàn ti jẹ́ olúborí ra owó ìpè dójú àmì lọ́sọ̀ọ̀sẹ̀ kó o sì gbádùn ẹ̀bùn owó tó tó 100 mílíọ̀nù náírà. ìpolongo yìí ń wá sópin ní oṣù December ọdún 2021 fún àlàyé síwájú sí testa 444*4#.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Ìgbà ọ̀tun lórí ọ̀tun pẹ̀lú àrà ọ̀tun níléeṣẹ́ ABR ọ̀rẹ́ àgbẹ̀ abisuyo lókòbọ̀kọ̀ àwọn ilẹ̀ àgbẹ̀ wọn ti péjú owó báyìí pẹ̀lú àǹfààní tó kọjá bẹ́ẹ̀ mo lọ́gẹ̀dẹ̀ orílẹ̀ ìlúgùn àti ọlọ́run dá 25,000 lẹ́sàn báyìí tẹ́ ẹ bá ra plọ̀tì mẹ́ta ẹ ó gba ìdajì sí i ẹ ra éka ká ẹ gbòdìdì kan lé lórí ilẹ̀ àgbẹ̀ kọ́fapẹ́ alábàtà ọ̀pẹ́jì 30,000 naira per plot lòun náà bẹ́ẹ̀ bá ti ra plọ̀tì mẹ́ta ẹ ó gba ìdajì sí i bó sì jẹ́ éka lẹ́ra odidi lẹ́gbà sí i bẹ́ẹ̀ sì làwọn onírà ó ti wà níkàlẹ̀ láti mójútó irè oko yín tí yóò jáde 39 NTA Road ọgbẹ̀ Abẹ́òkúta 08033706236 08033706236 ABR ọ̀rẹ́ àgbẹ̀ abisuyo olóko bọ̀kùà ọjọ́ 10 oṣù kọkànlá láǹfààní yóò pè.
ṣọmọ pọ́nlé gbowó tó bá jẹ níbi tó wù ẹ́ káàkiri nàìjà tó bá ta tó bá ti jẹ nílé iṣẹ́ Golden Chance Lotto ìmọ̀ ìjìnlẹ̀ ti sún bó ṣe ń lọ là ń tẹ̀lé o nílé iṣẹ́ Golden Chance Lotto.
ìrọ̀rùn ekun ìrọ̀rùn ẹyẹ lọ̀rọ̀ ń bá dé o fún gbogbo oníbàárà tí ń ta Golden Chance Lotto tó o bá tayọ Golden Chance Lotto tó o jẹ kò síbi tó o ti lè gbowó rẹ̀ jákèjádò Nàìjíríà kò pọn dandan pé ọ̀dọ̀ agent nìkan ló ti lè gbowó tó o bá jẹ o lè gbowó lọ́dọ̀ sub agent tàbí ní payment center Golden Chance Lotto tó bá súnmọ́ o lè tayọ lẹ́kọ̀ọ́ kó wá gbowó rẹ̀ l'Àbújá bó sì wù ọ́ o lè pé kí wọ́n bọ́ sínú àkáǹtì rẹ̀ directly o sì lè lo kóòdù wa láti ta àti láti gbowó tíkẹ́ẹ̀tì rẹ̀ ní dáhùn gbogbo ọ̀rọ̀ o sì lè kàn sí alórí wẹ́bsáìtì wa o www.goldenchanceloto.com sanwó yá tíkẹ́ẹ̀tì ta kó o jẹ gbowó ẹ̀ Golden Chance Lotto ọ̀nà tó yá láti di mílíọ̀nìà láì jalè.
bó ṣe ń lọ là ń tẹ̀lé o nílé iṣẹ́ Golden Chance Lotto.
Ojú ò ti gbọ́ nípa ìdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́ lọ́jọ́ kan tó kún fún ọ̀nà láti tẹ̀síwájú nínú oríire tá a jíṣẹ́ tí ilé iṣẹ́ 1st January Agro Investment Limited gbé kalẹ̀.
Orúkọ tèmi ni Moshood Méjìgbẹ̀dú. Mo jẹ́ àgbẹ̀ onípákí. Àwa àgbẹ̀ àti ṣetán láti fi ọwọ́ sowọ́pọ̀ pẹ̀lú 1st January Agro Investment láti dá ẹ̀yin èèyàn wa ńlé ní ẹ̀kọ́ nípa báwo ni a ṣe lè ṣoríire láti ìmáa gbin ọ̀gbìn pákí.
Jẹ́ olóko láì dákọ̀, jẹ́ àgbẹ̀ láì ṣe wàhálà àti ọ̀nà tí o lè gbà ṣiṣẹ́ àgbẹ̀ olóhùn ọ̀sìn àti olóhùn ọ̀gbìn lọ́nà ìrọ̀rùn tí wàá sì tún jẹ èrè rẹpẹtẹ. Àdá o kó o ṣe gbogbo ohun tí o bá lè ṣe láti darapọ̀ mọ́ àwọn ènìyàn níbi ìdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́ tó ń tún ayé ẹni ṣe fún ìlọsíwájú nínú ọrọ̀ ajé àti jíjẹ́ olówó sí yìí. Lọ́jọ́ 5 oṣù kọkànlá ọdún yìí ní Crown Royal Hall Abiolawe Lábẹ́òkúta pé 08165646535.
Àlàáfíà lóògùn ọ̀rọ̀ ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ló ní ìṣòro kan tàbí èkejì nínú ara oríṣiríṣi egbògi láti lò àmọ́ tí kò sí ìyàtọ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ sì ni ọ̀pọ̀ ti jẹ nǹkan tó dùn lápọ̀jù èyí tó fa àkọlùkọgbà nínú ara lójú lọ́kọ̀lẹ́wòrán ti hurun egbògi tá à ń pè rẹ̀ rẹ̀ Chapman Ababita egbògi tí wọ́n fi omi ṣe èyí tọkùnrin àtobìnrin lè lò Chapman Ababita ṣetán tí yóò já gbogbo jẹ̀gẹ̀jẹ̀gẹ̀ ara dànù lọ́gán lára bá yá yágíyágí Chapman Ababita kànàkànà máa já tòun pẹ̀lú àgbékalẹ̀ iléeṣẹ́ olúwalúọpẹ́ tradu medical center NAFDAC fòǹtẹ̀lù omi pọ́nbélé ni wọ́n fi ṣe ẹ̀dá Chapman Ababita ò lónìí láti jẹ́ alágbàtà tàbí kó lọ́pọ̀ yanturu ẹ pè sórí aago 081 70026620 08170026620 Chapman Ababita Oluwalulope Trado Medical Center ló ń ṣe.
We're not gonna yell at you.
We're just gonna give you the best of information and entertainment that everyone can agree on.
Splash FM 106.7.
Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama. Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama on Splash 106.7 FM.
We have gone 2 minutes past 9 a.m. in the city of Abeokuta. Your dial is still tuned to Splash 106.7 FM, the Integrity Station. You're welcome back to Panorama Now, where we are embarking on the new segment we have, which is From the Pages. I have with me the Punch newspaper.
Daily Trust, The Nation, as well as Nigerian Tribune here.
All right, reading from the Punch newspaper now, headliner, death toll rises as Lagos probes collapse, owner, pastor missing, building project sponsors whereabouts unknown, Sanwo-Olu names supervisors, 15-story building plan approved, not 21, stated by Deputy Governor, document shows. Those stories can be found on pages 4 and 5 of the Punch newspaper this morning. PENCOM begins clampdown on defaulting employers, appoints recovery agents. That's on page 30. NBA petitions commission panel over Malami, magistrates' roles in Odili's home raid. That's on page 2. Council battle over final forfeiture of $899,600 found in Abuja apartment. That's on page 39. 39, I beg your pardon. Army roadblocks return. Terrorist kidnappers lay siege to FCT. That is on page 22. Anambra decides 2021. Heavy security deployment not to intimidate voters. And U.S. threatens visa ban. Others on poll violence sponsors. Those stories are on pages 22 and pages 8, respectively. ABIODUN gifts OAU record-setting medical graduate house 5 million naira scholarship. That is on page 22. Army can't fight terrorists. Others with 579 billion naira. That is the COAS telling the Senate on page 8, on page 9. Robbers fail to find money in Kwara community. Machete residents rape minors. That's on page 9. Uni Abuja invaders demand 300 million naira for abducted professors and family members. That is also on page 9. Ekiti woman jailed 10 years for assaulting pregnant neighbor and forcing labor. That is on page 39. Subsidy payment costs 864.07 billion naira in 9 months. That's an NNPC report that can be found on page 29. And those are the stories that you can find on the front page of the Punch newspaper this morning.
From The Nation, we have these stories. Lagos, gas leakage scare in Lagos. That's from The Nation. Osun 2022, NURTW endorses Oyetola for second term. Aviation Works, others get 39 billion naira contract. We also have this. Buni, others intervene in Oyo APC crisis. We have these as well. 162 stranded Nigerians back from Libya. Integrity test necessary on multi-level buildings, says experts, and that is not unconnected to the Ikoyi building that collapsed on Monday. Zulum reopens Bama Banki Road 9 years after. We also do have this. Anambra poll INEC to deploy biometric voter form. Right, that's as regards the poll that would happen in Anambra State on Saturday. Jam remits 3.51 billion naira as 2021 operating surplus. We also do have this story. North elders on 2023 vote competent, honest leader. Federal government needs 7 trillion naira to fix 854 roads. We also have this. Illegal refinery operator flees as fire raises houses in rivers. And emergency workers avert disaster as gas pipeline leaks in Lagos. Those are the stories that you find from The Nation. So also look at some other ones now from the Tribune. We have INEC to deploy BVAS device for Anambra election. Dump smart card reader. And that BVAS is biometric voter accreditation system. We have this as well. Ikpe has redeems Teachers Day car pledge. That's coming from all the way from Abia State. We also do have this. Amotekun. Army withdraws soldiers from checkpoint in Ondo. Sean's security meetings. Ikoyi building collapse. Sanwo-Olu lists names of 6 survivors rescued so far. Those are some of the stories from the Tribune. We also do have from Daily Trust. Ikoyi building collapse. Our core member who redeployed from Borno lost her life. And a sad note, really. DSS nabs lecturers who leaked exam questions to students. We have this as well. Robbers invade Kwara community, rape minors. That's on a sad note as well. Those are the stories that we have from the Daily Trust newspaper.
And we have with us Abayomi Babalola in the building, with us in the studio this morning. Sorry about that. Welcome to the show. He's a current affairs analyst on the show.
Well, good morning, Odera. Good morning. Benga. Odera, it's been a while.
Yes, it has been a while.
We miss you.
Thank you. Thank you very much
Welcome
for
back.
missing me. Thank you for welcoming me back. This is something my co-host refused to do, but you know, I mean,
somebody actually even referenced that.
oh yeah,
because you've not done the needful.
I was going to read out that comment. I don't know
come
how.
back from a leave.
No, as a matter of fact, thank you so much. I should read out that comment from Adetayo Ademola Adeniro. It says, "Good morning, Splash FM. Good morning, Benga and Odera." It's Odera, not Odara, but I'm going to let that slide. Odera, long time welcome, Jari. If Benga refuses to welcome you, that part is very important, and it's there. You can go and look it up on Facebook. It's right there. The issue of collapsed building in Ikoyi, the owner of that building and the engineer must face the law because the building collapsed based on the extra load on it. There are still many buildings around Lagos Island, Lekki axis, that need to be inspected to avoid more disasters. May the untimely lost souls rest in perfect peace. From Engineer Tayo Adeniro from
Might
Abiodun.
just be exact
Thank
time
you.
for me to also read a comment that came in on WhatsApp that I forgot to read.
Okay.
The person is almost boiling, but we're going to read it now.
Okay.
My take in all that has been said is that human beings should value lives rather than wanting to make monies. Everybody knows what is right and what is wrong. So even if you want to collect kickbacks and the likes, ensure you follow due diligence and utmost compliance with whatever you are involved in. The building that was approved for 15-story and went to 21-story building. What about the monitoring team from the government to check this violation of approved plans? I pray that Almighty God console the family of those that died in the collapse. And I also want to thank God, even though not a palatable one, that the building has not been completed and let out before the collapse. Government should please monitor well and not just interested in collecting monies. Surakat Abdulhamid ABIODUN. I see the second part of the comment. We'll work on it to adjust and ensure that we have a variety of opinions on the show. So it's not just calls and Facebook as well as WhatsApp. But thank you very much for sending that in. So.
All right. So to begin, we can all assume that the Ikoyi building collapse is a major problem. That was our issue of the day. Abayomi, I don't know if you paid attention. But yes. Okay. So right now, Lagos is probing the collapse. The owner, the pastor is missing. The building project sponsors' whereabouts are unknown. The deputy governor is stating that the document has shown that the 15-story building plan was approved and not 21, as was erected or as was in the process of being erected. Now, this, well, I don't know how far you listened, but this is a pointer to so many things. This is a pointer to the government agency in charge not doing what they're supposed to do. This is a pointer to greed, one might say, on the part of the owner, on the part of the construction engineers, or what have you. This is also a pointer to the lack of or the influx of substandard materials that's ravaging the country. So what do you make of all of this in general?
Well, I listened to the two professionals you called in this morning, and I think they have said a lot, coupled with what we have been hearing since the day the collapse happened. But it's unfortunate that when things like this occur in this country these days, the first thing you think of is corruption. The first thing you think of is negligence. The first thing you think of is a deliberate oversight of not doing what we are supposed to do. The lives that have been lost can never be brought back. Yesterday, when I listened to LIADI on this show, and I wonder when somebody called in and was saying that where is that feeling that human lives are being lost on these things? You recollect some years back when that of synagogue happened.
I think it was 2014 or 2015.
Up till date, we've not been able to hold anybody responsible. If at all we'll have somebody to hold responsible, probably we'll blame the dead. And this is another one that has occurred. Like the professionals this morning were saying that the cause of this particular collapse and every other collapse could have been one or several amongst many. Could be corruption, could be the materials being used, could be structural defaults and the likes. But more importantly to me, what do we do so that this thing does not reoccur? If government, now they have set up a committee to investigate and do this, I can bet you, apart from those who have, who lost individuals, many of us who are not directly affected will not talk about this in the next 2 weeks again, and maybe in 7-8 months' time, that is when somebody will remind us that, oh, a building collapsed in Ikoyi some months back. And the report of that committee, if at all there will be any report, will go the way others have gone. We are not doing anything to make sure that things like this don't reoccur. And for me, like I said, lives that have been lost cannot be brought back. So what do we do so that we don't continue to lose people like this? Look at the young corps member that redeployed from Bauchi State. From Borno State. That redeployment was based on insecurity there. Now he came back home, and look at what. Do you now blame him for seeking redeployment? Do you now blame him for saying, okay, that 1 year of my service here, I could have stayed at home and be getting the federal government stipend without doing anything? Do you now blame him for saying, let me make efforts to go to site, get some things done, acquire some experience, and possibly build on that? Do you now blame him for that? Do you blame the workers that are there, that have gone out in the morning to look for what to eat? I don't know. I don't know how else to describe this. It's so saddening.
It's a rather
but then
sad one.
People who are in charge, what do they do to make sure that this thing does not reoccur?
All right, we're in the second segment of the show, Panorama it is, and of course this is from the pages. We'd read this story well. Anambra is gearing up for the election that will happen on Saturday, in just 2 days' time, and I'm aware of a certain window or rule the 24-hour before the election blackout, where campaigns must have wound down at least 24 hours
That'll be
before.
tomorrow morning.
That'll be tomorrow morning, basically. But there's a development from INEC. They say that they would deploy biometric voter accreditation system device for that election. It's a first. All we've usually had up until now is smart card readers that are used in elections since 2015. As a matter of fact, the chairman of INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, referenced the fact that the BVAS has the dual capacity for fingerprint and facial authentication of voters, and according to him, this is to guard against voting by identity theft, where one person uses another person's permanent voter's card, PVC, to vote using the incident form. My question in this regard is, this is the first. It's not been test run before now. Would that jeopardize the integrity of the election process in Saturday in Anambra State?
I don't expect it to jeopardize the integrity of the election, but I expect that it will cause a lot of brouhaha at the end of the election, because politicians will come back, especially when the results did not favor them. They will come back and tell you that it is the new system that INEC introduced that made them to lose the election. That some of their supporters, some of their people were not allowed to vote. And like you said, this device that INEC is deploying has not been tested before now.
It's not.
Or if they have tested it, it has not been tested with real election situation like this one. So politicians will always fault it at the end of the day. But for me, I don't even expect INEC to deploy that device now, because we have so many situations surrounding, so many problems surrounding the Anambra election.
Right.
And you are giving these politicians room to complain at the end of the day. Why can't you deploy this device at a more peaceful atmosphere, not at this this particular time? Like what Professor Mahmoud said, what is paramount to them is that the election should hold.
Right.
And I am of the opinion that the election should hold, though not at the expense of human lives, not at the expense of security of lives and property. But the problem Anambra is having today, if that election did not hold, it's going to be a bigger problem.
Okay.
So I wouldn't blame INEC, I wouldn't blame the federal government that are trying to put everything in place to ensure that that election holds. If that election did not hold, will you tell the incumbent governor to continue in office? Will the federal government declare state of emergency and bring in administrators? Will you leave a vacuum in the state that there won't be a governor? These are some of the things that we should think about. And I know, I am of the thinking that at the end of the day, the total number of votes that will be recorded in Anambra this election might not be up to 2 million. Might not be up to 2 million.
There's
But
also-
then, what matters is that the person that acquires the highest number of votes casted, not number of registered voters. So if only 100,000 people comes out to vote,
But
the result will
there's
still...
always been this thing about the indigenes of Anambra not liking to come out to vote right from time. It has always been that way.
And this situation makes it worse.
I was going to ask you, there's also, maybe you could call it a big concern, and that's the IPOP sit-at-home order that they've given. Supposed to start tomorrow. I think they are supposed to be for a week and all of those, which IPOP is saying that they're not saying people should not come out to vote, but they're saying people should sit at home, which is more like a situation of dilemma for the citizens of Anambra who want to exercise their franchise.
At times you wonder what these people really want for themselves. You don't want the toga of control from Abuja to be on your state, and you are still putting everything in place to ensure that your people can't come out to decide on their own. I saw a video a couple of weeks back where one of the aspirants was chased away, even in Lagos, not in Anambra. In Lagos, he went to Alaba International Market, and he was chased away. That they don't want him, they don't want election to hold in the states and the likes. Now, if the election did not hold, if people are asked to sit at home and nobody comes out to vote, of course, we are not going to have a zero election. Some people will still come out to vote. The rally that was held yesterday by PDP, we saw the crowd. People still came out. So it means that some people will still come out to vote. Like that of Hope Uzodinma in Imo State, where they are calling him the Supreme Court governor.
Right.
What name will they give whoever wins this election? Because definitely he is not going to be a popular candidate, where you have a population of like 7 or 8 million and only less than 1 million coming out to vote for your governor. I just hope that these people, the IPOB, the ESN and the likes, will just sit down and think of what they really want for themselves. The ultimate thing they want is secession, which is not feasible as we speak. Why can't you make do of what you have for now, and then you pursue you pursue your ultimate goal in other areas? This violence of a thing, I really don't buy into it. And so many innocent citizens are the ones that are suffering for it. The politicians, the big politicians that are even taking decisions in the states, that are taking decisions in the country, are not being affected. It is the ordinary citizens, people who wants to go out and do their own businesses, that you have debarred from going to their own place of getting means of livelihood. Their students, you did not allow them to go to school. How do you expect them to compete with their contemporaries out there? These are some of the things that we should think about. And I think Igbo leaders generally should call their people to order.
Do you think the threats by the U.S. on visa bans on those that sponsor poll violence is going to do anything?
When I saw that news, it did not move me an inch, because this is not the first time you hear about that. And
about the threats?
About the threats. And by the way, what special interest does these countries have in our election that they continue to threaten us that people who are involved in election malpractices will not be allowed into their country?
Do you not see that as a good development?
You see,
on the part of the people.
Okay, did we place travel ban on Donald Trump for what happened? How do we curb this thing inward?
But have the threats been followed through? Is there an instance where the threats have actually been followed through, or did they just remain
There was
threats?
a time a presidential candidate in this country was asked not to come to the U.S. One way or the other, he was found there, and afterwards, nothing happened. If you cannot go to the U.S., the United Kingdom did not tell you not to come. France did not tell you not to come. They are making their money. Come to their country. It's part of tourism. You are contributing to their own GDP. If you cannot handle your domestic affairs, it shouldn't be their problem. So these threats of a thing, for me, it's nothing. It's nothing.
Okay, let's see if we can also breeze through some more stories. But by the way, we'll get open the phone lines very shortly for you to be part of the conversation. And the numbers are 0817-444-1067, 0704-400-1067, and 0817-555-1067. Let's talk about JAM for a few minutes, shall we? And the fact that JAM has remitted 3.51 billion naira as 2021 operating surplus. The question in this regard is, seems as though JAM is just been doing well since Professor LIADI got at the helm of affairs of that body to ensure that whatever surplus they have as budget, they return back to the coffers of government at the end of the day. What do you make of that development, really?
Well, when Professor LIADI started this idea of remittance of excess revenue to the federal government like 2-3 years back, we were applauding him that, oh, this is wonderful. This is something that we have not been seeing from the past administration. But back then I asked a question that, is JAMB supposed to be a revenue generating outfit in the first instance? Okay, how are they generating this revenue? From what is the source of this revenue they are talking about? You rob Paul to pay Peter. You tell our students and their parents to pay for exams. You make use of part of that payments to execute the exam, and then you declare surplus and give to the federal government. Where we are talking about education that is supposed to be subsidized, where we are talking about the low quality of education we are even having, and you still tax these parents to pay excess. You know, ab initio, that what they are paying is much more than what will be required for the exam. So why build them? Why build them that much? So this idea of JAMB remitting excess revenue to the federal government is, for me, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be.
So what you're saying is, rather than that, it would make more sense to reduce the cost of registering.
Reduce the cost. And even if JAMB must rob Peter to pay Paul, let me put it that way, the excess revenue, rather than taking it to the federation account, why can't we say we want to spend this excess revenue on educational facility? Our universities don't have the capacity to admit all students who seek admission every year. What are we doing in that regard? At the twilight of President Jonathan's administration, he set up 6 universities. What is the fate of these universities as we speak today? These are the areas that we need to spend on, rather than taking this excess revenue from JAMB to federation accounts where everybody will share, either your people contributed to that revenue or not. It's like the VAT of a thing, that your states don't contribute to the VAT and then you share that much from it. The same thing applies to this JAMB revenue, because there are some states that you get a large chunk of the money from, and there are some states that barely contribute anything. But they all share the money.
Okay, we'll have to proceed on a commercial break. When we come back, we'll look at maybe one more story and, of course, get to pay attention to
phone lines.
Your calls. Stay with us.
Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama. Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama on Splash 106.7 FM.
Don't dare touch that dial. It's Splash, your integrity station.
Listen up. The administration of His Excellency, Prince Dapo ABIODUN, in his magnanimity, has come up with a special arrangement to pardon those that have erected structures on government land in an ongoing ratification program called Property Registration Program. Listen to the following areas:
Ládìrín, Ìkèrèkú Olókùta, Ìjẹun Lúkòsì, Abúlé Òkò, Agúnrétí.
Àṣeṣe, Mòwe, Ìbàfò, Orímẹ́rùnmú, Màgbòrákẹ́ran, Makogi, Ṣèfíùṣọ̀tẹ̀, Olówótẹ̀dó.
Ayétòrò, Lúkòsì, Sèídù, Ògìjó, Ìlara, Àgùntóyè, Ṣìmáwá.
And Ìlaro LUD.
Residents living in these areas are advised.
Coca-Cola 1 liter, 160 naira. Ovaltine refill 400 gram,
970 naira. Fruta fruit drink 500 ml 100 naira. Mini me pasta macaroni 475 grams 240 naira. Get this.
díẹ̀díẹ̀ náà ṣì ń bẹ̀rẹ̀ pẹ̀lú 10,000 naira. Àdéhùn àti àjọsọ wà ṣá o. A wà ní 24 Nawarudin Road ládojúkọ Nawarudin High School Ìṣàbọ̀ Abẹ́òkúta 08161411190 tàbí 09125242235.
Talk radio. I listen to a lot of talk radio.
I like talk radio.
Welcome to your number one talk radio station.
Fasten your seatbelts.
This is your favorite station. Splash FM 106.7.
Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama. Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama on Splash 106.7 FM. Thanks for staying with us. Panorama on the Integrity Radio dial, Splash 106.7 FM. This is the segment we call From the Pages. We'd have to open the phone lines now, but about 2 minutes. The raid on Odili's residence by some will call them unscrupulous elements now. Some see it as an attack on the legal system and all of that. How do you view it?
Is this the first time we'll be having an attack on the legal system? We are used to all these things, and but the narrative that some people are hell-bent on not allowing Mary Odili to become the next Chief Justice of the Federation, I wouldn't know, but what I know is that by May next year, Mary Odili will be 70, and the present occupier of that office is 68, 69, let me put it down. Odili is still like a year older. If not for the fact that we don't know the health status of the CJN for now, I don't see any way Odili will become the Chief Justice of the Federation. I do not see it. But like rumors are coming that the CJN is indisposed, and probably they are looking at who will take over from him, and the next person in line could be Mary Odili, maybe. But then these people that we have been dealing with the experience we've had over time, if they don't want Odili to become the CJN, it's not going to be this hard. That I'm very sure of. It's not going to be this hard.
All right, let's take some calls because we have to wrap up pretty early today. 0704-400-1067. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Nicholas.
Good morning, Nicholas. Please contribute to the show.
Yep. By next week, we will be celebrating the 1-year anniversary of the Lagos Island collapse. Who has seen the panel? The papers broke the news. We discussed on radio. People go to sympathize with the governor, and some go to sympathize with the national leader of the governor's party. And we move ahead. In Japan, if those who were linked to that building did not die in the rubble, the next day they would commit suicide to avoid the rigors of the panel and for the living relatives of those who died to be consoled. On Odili, everybody who is informed knows that the Chief Justice is very indisposed. But we have seen Pantami abuse Abike Dabiri. We have seen Danladi, head of the Court of Appeal, abuse a gate man. So I don't think they are ready for a female Chief Justice. But if God says Odili will be Chief Justice, nothing will stop her. Have a nice day.
Very much, Nicholas.
I have another caller on the other line. Let's hear from the person. Okay, we have to try to sort that out. Well, the numbers again.
0704 400 1067 and 0817 444 1067. Good morning.
Yeah, my name is Abayomi.
All right, Abayomi, please speak to us.
All right. Job issue, Professor Ishaq already. I still want to give it to the man for doing this kind of thing. I think because it is our DNA in Nigeria or Africa to be corrupt. That's why this kind of thing are always very strange to us when you see somebody in government or in any position to be remitting money back to the government coffers. However, instead of castigating what the man has done or containing what the man has done, I think it would be better if you can prefer solutions or suggest ways at which this money can be used instead of remitting back to the government, because at the end of the day, they will still steal the money. Do you understand? At least we've had people in that position before. The last one was Ibo Jerry. And I never heard of money being remitted. And it's not as if there's never been any leftover. So, if there are ways, if there are channels of communicating with Professor Ishaq, okay, Baba, you have done well, but these are the ways at which you can spend the money. Because if money goes back to the federal government, they will squander it. So I have to give it to the man.
All right.
Thank you very much. We should mention that Abayami actually mentioned alternative ways that the money could be used, putting back into the education sector. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Splash FM. Arowoju is my name.
All right, Arowoju, please speak to us.
Is your guest Abayomi Baba?
Yes, he is.
Okay, Abayomi, how are you doing? Okay.
Hello, I can hear you. Good morning.
All right, go on, please.
Okay. The IPOB is, or the Eastern people, they are in dilemma. I agree, they are in dilemma. But you see, what he is expecting is that they will now gang up and look for one of the candidates. That's not what will solve problems. Virtually all the candidates are Abuja apologies. We want quick fixes in Nigeria and we don't want to fight. They have reasons for their agitation. I'm not promoting violence, but you see, the issue of the South, we cannot just be quiet about it. Thank you.
We'll have to breeze through comments now so that we can meet up with the brevity of time that we have. Tired on WhatsApp is behaving. Maybe we just go on with Facebook if we have to.
Oh, well, we don't really have many comments. We have also Francis Omagan Namani saying, watching live from Amagunze in Enugu State. We have a few salutations from James Shobola and Useni. We have Kojo Asempa saying this is a serious program indeed from Kojo Asempa
from Ghana.
Adum Kumasi in Ghana.
Okay, so what's up? Good morning, Splash FM or Dara Ghana guest on Anambra gubernatorial election. To me, the government should know that they should do. The government knows what they should do, but it's absolutely uncertain they won't. Please, is the election more important than the life of citizens of Anambra? And if the election still goes ahead, let any security agency, let security agencies be very careful not to cause any unwanted attitude at the polling unit. And I want to advise the people of Anambra, if they wish to go out and vote, they should go and cast a vote for the candidates of their choice without intimidation and be watching. May God bless the people of the state. Thank you, Engineer Taya Adeniro, for sending that in. Still trying to make my way around to getting all the other messages.
In the meantime, let's take this last comment. Hello.
Yeah, hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, from ABIODUN.
All right, speak to us.
You see, Nigerian government is get people worse tomorrow, and then they come back to vote millions of naira for insecurity. How can projects like JAM will be declaring surplus to the federal government? Is JAM supposed to be a zero-interest agency, not declaring surplus means that, number one, you overcharging the candidate. Secondly, you are putting the in a tight corner to send their children to school. When those people cannot provide money to send their children to buy them, that means they will sit at home and they become one thing or the other. It is that the way it's supposed to be, regarding surplus for JAM.
Uche, you're going to have to wrap up really quickly, please.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you very